There's been a lot of talk about the New York Knicks packaging their 3 draft picks in this year's upcoming draft, but we have reports coming out from Ian Begley that they may actually stick and pick and make their 3 selections. We'll break that down, and then we'll close today's show, and I'm going to give you 6 players that I believe the New York Knicks are going to target on draft night, and we'll give you an in-depth scouting report on those players. But first, I got to make sure everybody watching today's video is subscribed to the channel. We put out free, informative, entertaining coverage every day on the Knicks. And I also just want to say thank you to all of the real ones. We crossed over 48,000 subscribers today. That is a massive achievement. We're trying to get to 50,000, though, by NBA free agency. So if you love the Knicks, hit that sub button right now. You're watching Knicks Now by Chat Sports. I am your host, Marshall Green. Appreciate everybody's for stopping by as we get you caught up on all the news and rumors that surround the orange and blue. Ian Begley of SNY said this: I don't get the sense that the New York Knicks are fully committed to moving their 2024 draft picks. There's been a lot of talk. ESPN and their most recent NBA mock draft, their reporter said that he has heard that the Knicks are looking to trade their picks. And there's been a lot of talks and a lot of rumors coming out. The Knicks want to package their picks to A, either move up in the draft, B, trade out of the draft, or C, try to bring a star to New York. Thing is, we'll get an answer to all of those questions very, very soon, as the NBA draft is just a couple weeks away. Round 1 will take place on June 26th. And for the first time, it is actually a 2-day event, and the second round will go down on the 27th. And we're going to be live on the channel for both days, so subscribe, and we'll see you there. This is the full quote from Begley. He says, if I had to guess, the Knicks make at least one of their 3 picks this year. They own number 24, number 25 in the first round, and 38 in the second. ESPN and Yahoo have reported the Knicks are looking to trade their first-round picks. This makes sense, given the organization's recent history and the current state of the franchise. Begley then said, I don't get the sense that they are fully committed to moving their 2024 picks. In some of New York's recent draft meetings, discussions have been centered on finding players in the draft who can fill a void. In the aftermath of their Game 7 loss to the Pacers, there has been internal concern over the Knicks' roster depth in the postseason, particularly against Indiana. So in some of these recent draft meetings, the focus has been on finding players who can bolster the back end of the roster. And I think that it makes a lot of sense for the New York Knicks to keep their picks. But I do just want to welcome everybody to the smokescreen season. We've got ESPN saying the Knicks want to trade their picks. We've also got Yahoo saying the same thing. And now Ian Begley is saying they want to keep their picks. I don't mean any disrespect by saying this, but I don't think anyone knows what the Knicks want to do outside of Leon Rose, Tom Thibodeau, and Worldwide Wes. And even they may have not come up to a decision on what their plans are going to be entering the draft. I do know this: the draft and free agency will go hand in hand, and those two really parts of the offseason and decisions in both of those parts of this offseason will come together and decide what this team looks like going forward. When it comes to free agency, the Knicks have some players that played significant minutes and roles for them that are going to be free agents. Isaiah Hartenstein, Alec Burks, Precious Achiuwa, Shake Milton not so much, also OG Anunoby as a player option. I'm expecting him to be back. I don't know about Hartenstein. I doubt Burks is back, and I doubt Achiuwa is back unless he accepts that qualifying offer that I have heard the New York Knicks are going to extend to him. So you're going to have to find another shot maker off the bench in Alec Burks. Probably another big, like Precious Achiuwa, that could bring you energy and effort. You're going to maybe need to find those guys cheaply because the New York Knicks are right up against becoming an apron team in the NBA. And there's pros and cons to sticking and picking. Pro number 1, you get cheap, young, cost-controlled, talented players in the NBA draft. Cons, you traded for all those first round picks with the idea of going and making a move for a superstar. You obviously wouldn't be doing that this year if you did. But now might be the time for the Knicks to actually go out and punch their tickets to the sweepstakes of trying to trade for a superstar. You look at their committed salary for this upcoming offseason, $136 million. I already took out the $19.9 million that OG Anunoby has on a player option. He's going to decline that. So you're down to $136 million. The first apron is $178 million. And if you re-sign Isaiah Hartenstein to $18 million deal, like a lot of us think is going to happen, as well as giving OG Anunoby $35 million, you're probably going to be a first apron team, even if you don't pick up the salary of $19 million for Bojan Bogdanovic. And then you're very close to being a second apron team. And as soon as you enter the apron discussion, the way that you build your roster going forward makes it a lot more difficult. Here are some of the ramifications of being a first and second apron team. First apron team, you cannot take more money back in a trade. Like if you're trading, let's say, for a $50 million player, you're going to have to give up $50 million. Not 49, not 48. You can't take more back in a trade. You're also not allowed to use a pre-existing trade exception. Knicks have a couple of those. You're allowed to use a trade exception from a new trade, though. The second apron is where it gets extremely difficult. You're not allowed to use a pre-existing trade exception. Cannot take more money back in a trade. You're not allowed to aggregate contracts, meaning let's say you're trading for a player that makes $50 million. You can't trade two players that make $25 million. It's got to be a one-for-one swap. You're also not allowed to send cash out. You're allowed to use a trade exception form from a new trade, but you're not allowed to use a trade exception created from a sign-in trade. So when you enter these aprons, it's no longer just paying the luxury tax. It puts hurdles in the way of you trying to build out your roster. And if you look at this Bobby Marks offseason outlook, he has the committed salary of $156. I'm going to keep it around that $139 number because we know that OG Anunoby is not going to accept that player option. And there's really some things that the Knicks are going to have to discuss. The cost to keep the roster together, the free agents of Anunoby and Hartenstein, the extensions for Brunson and Randall, the direction in the draft. Do you keep your picks or do you move them? It's going to be a very, very interesting offseason and decisions. I'll say this, actually. This is the most important offseason of the Leon Rose era. He hits a home run this offseason. Knicks are going to be in the driver's seat of the Eastern Conference for a long, long time. He makes a couple bad decisions. You could be in a bad spot. What do you think the Knicks should do with their picks, though? Because it might be now that they need to go all in. Because if you don't go all in now, you're going to lose these two picks, and it's also going to be much more difficult for you to make trades down the line. Might be time to do it now. What do you think? Should they trade their picks? Should they make their picks? Or should they trade up? Type T for trade the picks for a star. Type M for make the picks. Or U for trade up to make a selection maybe in the lottery. Coming up next, I got 6 players that I think the Knicks are interested in and 6 guys that I think would make a lot of sense for Leon Rose, Tom Thibodeau, and Worldwide West to select in this upcoming draft. That's around the corner. But first, I got to give a huge shout out to today's sponsor, Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS. Use that promo code CLNS, and Prize Picks, the #1 daily fantasy sports app, will match your first deposit up to $100. What is Prize Picks? It's daily fantasy sports made easy. All you do is create a lineup of 2 to 6 players, and you simply just choose more or less on their projected stat line. My favorite part about Prize Picks is how easy they make it for you to win money. They always do specials like they are for Game 1 of the NBA Finals. They have slashed Jason Tatum's points for just half a point. Select them more on that. You pretty much get a freebie. Pair one more player in there, have a 2-player lineup, you could turn $20 into $60. And I think Derek Lively, he's going to have an assist. So I'll select them more on that. You can roll with my picks or fade my picks, but I kindly ask if you're going to play daily fantasy sports, you do it with our proud sponsor, Prize Picks. That's prizepicks.com/CLNS. And remember to use that promo code CLNS. Support the show, support the sponsor, be a real one. All righty. The Knicks, they own pick 23 or 24, 25, and 38 in the NBA draft. I would actually be shocked if the New York Knicks select 3 different players. I don't see that happening. And if they do, I would expect that second round of selection to spend most of, if not all of next year with the G League, or maybe it is another international player that is a draft and stash. Simply put, you don't got 3 roster spots and 3-minute spots for 3 rookies to come over. Let's talk about packaging some picks and moving up in the NBA draft. One of my dream moves for the Knicks is to package the picks, whether it's all 3 or 2 of them or whatever you do, to move up right outside the lottery and select the sharpshooting scorer Dalton Knecht from Tennessee. He's 23 years old, 6'6", 213 pounds. He has a wingspan of 6'9", and he can put the ball in the basket. He would actually be my Bojan Bogdanovic replacement. I would try to move Bogey this offseason. I don't think the Knicks can afford to not be an apron team. while also keeping $19 million on the books for Bogey. And I think Knecht is a guy that you can plug and play in the NBA, and he can come and average 10, 12 points his rookie year. He moves off ball really well. He'd be a great piece off the bench. He's instant offense. He's a great shooter. He shot 46% from the field last year for Tennessee, over 39% from three, averaged 22 points per game. The dude is a bucket, and he's an offense inside, really by himself for his off-ball movement and his ability to be a catch-and-shoot player. You would have to move into the teen range, and most likely the mid-teen range. Maybe pick 13, pick 14, pick 15, maybe pick 16. And if he's on the board at pick 15 or 16, you better be calling the teams on the clock to try to trade up. Because if you can add Dalton Knecht to this team, a proven scorer off the bench that you can rely on when Brunson's not on the floor for a long time, I think it makes a lot of sense. Another player that I'm really interested in this draft class is Tristan da Silva, the scoring wing from Colorado. Another older prospect, kind of a theme that I'm following. I want guys that are going to be ready to plug and play. We saw last year some of these older guys be ready to rock and roll. I think da Silva is the same type of player. 23 years old. He's 6'8", 200 pounds. He's got a 6'10+ wingspan. And like Knecht, he can score the basketball. And 33.8 minutes last year for Colorado. He averaged 16 points per game, shot better than 49% from the field, and better than 39% from downtown. Not nearly as polished of a scorer as Knecht, but I think it gives you a little bit more in other areas that Knecht does not. Better athlete. I think he's a better defender. And I think he's just as good, if not maybe a little bit worse, at putting the ball on the deck. Can't really create his own shot as well as Knecht, but this is a prospect that I think is still just scratching the surface of the type of player he can be. And you get another long wing with a great wingspan that has some defensive upside, that also could be a catch-and-shoot guy and give you some juice on the offensive end. I also think you'd probably have to trade up for da Silva, not nearly as high when it comes to Knecht, but maybe pick 19, 20, or 21. Maybe you package pick 25 and 38 to get that done. A guy that you could get at pick 24, 25, and maybe even pick 38 as one of my favorite up-and-coming guys in this draft class is Jaylon Tyson, the scorer from Cal. He's 21 years old, 6'7", has a 6'8" wingspan, but he's more so like a big guard. More so like that. You want him coming off the bench. You want the ball in his hands where he can create for himself and also create for others. I was watching his highlights last night for about an hour when I was at the crib, and I think a backcourt coming off the bench of Tyson with Deuce McBride, maybe Josh Hart, and another big could be a pretty solid bench for the foreseeable future. Average over 19 points per game, north of 6.5 rebounds, giving you 3.5 assists, 46% from the field, 36% from three. He's got a little floater inside the lane. He could shoot it from downtown, can create for himself off the bounce as well. And I like having a big guard in the backcourt next to McBride, because at this point, I'm really proud of the player McBride is. But I don't ever see him being a floor general and a guy that can run your offense. I think he's an undersized two guard, where I think Jaylon Tyson is an oversized point guard. I think those two working together in the backcourt could make a lot of sense. You don't lose size. And also Tyson, he's pretty good. He is a developmental guy on defense. I think he can move his feet. Got to get a little bit better there, but I do think he could be a contributor on that end pretty soon in the NBA. A guy that a lot of New York Knicks fans are talking about, and someone I'm sure Tom Thibodeau is begging for the New York Knicks to draft, is Ryan Dunn, the defensive specialist out of Virginia. He's 21, 6'6", with a 7'1.5" long wingspan. I think it's safe to say that Ryan Dunn, if not the best wing defender in this class, he is a top 5 wing defender. You look at what he did in the stat sheet last year. 2.3 blocks per game last year with 1.3 steals. The guy's almost giving you 4 stocks per game. Also 7 rebounds. Not much of a scorer, not really developed at all on the offensive end. But if you're looking for a guy that can come in when OG Anunoby is either A, hurt, B, needs a break, Ryan Dunn could be a plug-and-play guy that can give you stops on the defensive end. I still think long, lengthy wing defenders are kind of a soft spot for the New York Knicks. We saw that when Josh Hart was asked to guard Pascal Siakam. Just not really fair to Josh to do that. But I do worry a little bit about Dunn and the lack of offensive game that he has. He really doesn't even shoot the three. Shot 1 per game last year, just 20%. If he could become a league average three-point shooter, this is a guy that's going to have a very long and fruitful NBA career. And I think Tom Thibodeau is probably begging everybody that Ryan Dunn be a New York Knick. A guy that I'm really coming around on as a guy that I think the New York Knicks should target, whether it's pick 24 or 25, is Tyler Kolek, the point guard for Marquette, former Big East Player of the Year, multi-time first team and second team all Big East. 23 years old, 6'1", has almost a 6'3" wingspan. But when you talk about what the Knicks need off the bench, a guy that can control the offense, generate offense for others, get the ball to people in the right spots, they need a point guard that can run the show and set the table when Jaylon Brunson sits down. And Kolek might be the most true point guard in this draft. Undersized, yes. Older classman, yes. Lacking a little bit in the athleticism department. But when you talk about controlling the pace and being a true point guard, Kolek fits that bill. 15 points, north of 7 assists last year. He improved his three-point shot as well. I think that will continue. I said in a video the other day, it doesn't remind me much of T.J. McConnell, but man, he actually kind of does a little bit. He's got that lefty little craftiness to his game, and I think he's someone that's going to be productive in this league, and he could be a great bench point guard for the Knicks to back up Jaylon Brunson, and he would fit right in with the mindset of this team. Kolek, I think, should absolutely be a New York Knick if he is on the board when they are on the clock. The next player I want to talk about is his fellow teammate, Oso Ighodaro. I practiced that name probably 20 times for today's show. I still don't know if I'm saying it right. But this is a guy that could pretty much be your Precious Achiuwa replacement if he does leave in free agency. 21 years old, 6'9", 6'10", with a 6'11" wingspan at 205. Extremely athletic. He is bouncy. He can get off the floor quickly. He's got a good second jump. But I think he's also one of the better defending bigs in this class. He averaged 1.1 steals per game last year, 1.3 blocks per game. He gave you 13.4 points and just seven rebounds as well, with 3 assists, converted from the field at 57%. Not someone that's going to really space the floor for you. Not someone that's going to hit a lot of jumpers for you. But he's good at setting screens. He's good at rolling. And he's already got that Isaiah Hartenstein push shot down a little bit. And I think that if Achiuwa is going to be gone, you need to attack the big position in the draft. And Oso is one of my favorite late first-round draft targets. I think he moves his feet well. He's very athletic. A little bit smaller than I would like at just 6'9", 6'10", but he's got the wingspan to be able to contest shots around the rim. Defensive versatility, athletic upside, and he's got a nice sneaky touch that I like as well. If he's on the board at 25, I would not mind him being a New York Knick whatsoever. Who do you want the Knicks to draft, though? We just went through 6 players. I like all 6 of those guys. There's a lot of other players I like in this draft class, too, and we'll continue to break down the NBA draft. But I want to hear from you. Give me a name of someone I should do some homework on. Name a player you want the Knicks to draft. And make sure you are following me over on social media. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Instagram at @MarshallGreen_. Hit me up over there, and let's go Knicks.